Hello, everybody. This is Aaron DePrima, joined by my friend Evan Driscoll for, I think, the third or fourth KalamaZooKeeper podcast. How you doing, Evan?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you, Aaron?
Doing okay. We've had a rough time getting this one done.
We've had a few stumbling blocks. I'm to blame.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other. Things getting in the way. Happy to be here now.
You're an expectant father. I don't know if we talked about that last time.
It's true. I've got a little one on the way, and I'm making my preparations, accelerating a few things in life. Not unexpected, but certainly it'll put a fire under your ass one way or the other, expected or not.
I could imagine. My father said that when he had me, he was kind of shiftless, and as soon as either my mom got pregnant or I was born, he went back to school and finished up and got his act together, quit being a hippie.
My trajectory is not so dissimilar. I started trading on the stock market not too long ago. So,
did you ask me something about that recently?
Yeah, I attended a class this evening and wondered if you were interested in learning about options trading a bit. That's what I'm dabbling in as my side thing lately.
My little brother got me into the Peter Pan app. I have it. I have not used it, and they recently got under some scrutiny for that GameStop thing, right?
Peter Pan. Oh, Robinhood?
Robinhood, I'm sorry. Peter Pan. Robinhood. Same thing.
It is, that's probably more apt a metaphor for many. I actually, they blocked the transactions that I was attempting to make on January 28th, which cost me a pretty penny. So I'm actually part of I don't know if I can technically talk about it. I think I can. I'm part of a class action lawsuit for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they really show their colors. Not only did they block transactions like you experienced, but I think they even sold off people's shares without their permission for their own benefit.
Yeah.
It's like how egregious.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that was legitimate margin call sell-offs or what, but in any case, it becomes a gray area because of, you come to that with the expectation that you're going to be able to do what you want to do. And they have marketed themselves as this very easy to use and reliable thing. And as far as their transparency about an issue like that occurring, there wasn't one. There wasn't transparency, rather. Anyways, I don't want to get too much in the weeds in there because I can start talking in a bunch of jargon pretty quick. I'm sure. I'm aware of that hazard of my own.
I won't get you started.
But yeah, no, it's been an interesting, I took an accounting class in high school, and while I was doing the accounting class in high school, I also had what they would call a paper trading portfolio, just play money, imaginary money on the market, but you're playing the actual market. And I did okay for the 6 months I was doing it in that class. Now I'm, years later kicking myself a bit because why didn't I just keep doing that? I don't know. I'm many years later just reintroducing myself to both of those things, accounting and trading on the stock market.
It's one of those things that I've thought about. I probably should get into. I just haven't. I've always had such luck with the gyms and just properties. So
yeah,
figure if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's what works. And anytime I get into something a little bit riskier like that, the couple times I've gotten into the stock market, I haven't fared well, and I kind of on the same direction. I don't gamble, not because I don't enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it because when I gamble, like I never win anything. Like I just put my money in and it just goes straight down. Like I don't even get the stimulus of like occasionally winning. So it's probably good. It's kept me from gambling. But my experience,
It's like the proverbial making your kid smoke a whole pack of cigarettes all in one go when you find them smoking one cigarette, kind of a thing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, pretty much the same luck when I've done the stock market a couple times. I got into like riskier endeavors, so I can't be critical of the stock market in general. I did do riskier things, but they didn't pan out, so I never had that feedback to get me excited about it.
sure. Yeah, and one of the things about the stock market is there's so much about it that is opaque in a way that it's not only opaque, but there's also a lot of adversarial qualities to it. You're just a very small fish in a very large pond, and so you really have to be careful about what you're doing to manage your risk. And I'm paying the price for my ignorance on a number of those things, and thankfully I've recouped. But for example, the other week I was down like 42% of my entire portfolio's value,
Ouch.
and yeah, and now I'm, a week later. I should specify I'm not just doing stocks; it's options that I'm trading as well, a certain percentage of the portfolio. But now I'm back up almost to exactly where I was last week. So that's not terrible, but I've learned my lesson from that because it was
That sounds awfully volatile. So you're not doing just traditional stock trading. You're doing some other things for there to be
options
that big of
are
a swing. Yeah,
yeah,
because losing
options
and gaining
are
42% just playing with the stock market's pretty untypical, right?
right in your average equity stocks, you could say. So for your listeners, actually, some cousins of mine have been asking me about this. Basically, when you buy an option, they call them an option contract. You're buying the right generally to uh, sell shares at a certain price in the future, and you don't own any of the underlying stock necessarily. So let's say in my case, BlackBerry, back in January, I was betting that their price was going to go up above what they call the strike price of the option contract. So I think I forget what the numbers were, but I was betting it was going to go above $25, and it was currently trading at $18. And the life of my option contract meant that anytime during the life of that option contract, if it goes above $25 or whatever the calculus was, I can sell at a considerable profit by being able to sell at a lower price than it actually is, right? So if it goes up to $30 for a stock in BlackBerry and I'm able to sell it for 25, I can sell it and pocket the difference, basically. So that's roughly what it is. And you don't need to own any of the underlying stock. I did own BlackBerry stock at the time, but you don't need to. So it's like a whole other layer to the market. You could put it that way. And it is more volatile, more risky, generally.
And that's the
Anyways,
method that you use to short a stock.
yes, you would use an options contract to short a stock. And you can short things like ETFs as well. ETFs being agglomerations of many different stocks. So you could like short the entire healthcare sector in the US if you wanted
Almost
to.
like shorting a mutual fund.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The Michael Berry guy has been very vocal. Michael Berry, I think that's his name. That's the guy
Burry.
that
Yep.
Berry. He's been very vocal that there's going to be another imminent collapse, economic collapse, because of how the coronavirus was handled with the government shutdowns, which seems pretty apparent, seems pretty obvious. I don't think you have to be Michael Berry to see that coming. Predicts it's going to be
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Yeah. It seems to have made things more fragile in an already fragile system in the macro sense, in the big sense. Um, yeah. You really, it's a trail you can go down, and there are so many complex ramifications that I think back 2 years ago, I was reading a paper on financial contagion. This was a couple years after 2008, and I had taken some time off, very brief time off from my work in order to um, really study some of these things a little bit more deeply, because I'm like, I feel like I need to understand. And I remember going up to a friend's cottage and having like an anxiety attack almost, because I'm going deep into these things. I'm like, oh my God, no one knows what, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. And indeed it is in many ways. And there's not a whole lot any one of us could do about it a lot of the time, because there are these big systemic things. And that, I guess, is one of the things that has inspired me over time to have a lot of respect for local resilience, local business, and local everything critical, right? COVID has borne out just how much we need to have our own supply chain for this, that, and the other: personal protective equipment, drugs, essential supplies like oxygen. Those things need to be safeguarded. And in a globalized world, we've stretched those networks pretty thin in a lot of cases. And, for a word of, on this little rant of mine, for a word of optimism about it, I think there are a number of people who are waking up to the fact of needing to localize, not just people who are like America first, but people who really see the supply chain risk or financial risk, and they're looking to localize and decentralize the critical things, so that regardless of whatever shocking thing happens in the world on a global scale, the local is able to continue not unaffected, but with its essentials. Yeah, toilet paper. My God, that was. Do you have firsthand experience going into those stores when shelves were bare?
Yeah, I was in Florida and we were in pretty good shape because my girlfriend at the time ran a chain of salons, so they had supplies in reserve, so we just borrowed from that. And all the stores, the toilet paper, the paper towels, some other items. I think meats and milks, right? Meats, milk, that was all barren. But I went to like this kind of ghetto area, to the sandwich shop, and there was a gas station across the street. And as they were making the sandwiches, I'm like, I'm gonna go grab something to drink. And it was like straight up like in the hood. And I go in the shop, and the whole back wall is just toilet paper.
Wow.
When
Were
all
they
the
selling at a premium?
I don't think they were gouging people. I remember I bought a few. I remember thinking that they, uh, they didn't crank the price up too bad.
Good.
But I'm sure it was a buck or two more than during normal times. But it was just funny that, of all the places, I wouldn't think that that'd be a toilet paper haven.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of entrepreneurialism sparked, I think.
Mm-hmm.
My niece, 11 years old, maybe, she started doing hand sanitizers and mixing in essential oils and adding a bit of value and selling it on with her home printed labels. I think there was a lot of that going on.
Remember that guy during the beginning of all that just went around to all the pharmacies and stores and bought all the hand sanitizer and then tried to sell it on eBay? I think he got into some trouble or he had to give it back.
Had a storage unit full of just alcohol and gel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now there's the same thing with toilet paper, right? And I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't read any stories about this in particular, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was done with like tampons and stuff too, just everyday supplies, right?
Well, I think a lot of folks are still doing it with ammunition.
Oh, I can't find anything. I'm learning to make my own.
Really?
Yeah.
I know a guy that has a press, but you have to use the shells, or I think it's ideal to use the shells that you shot with your gun, because they're at that point fitted to your gun once they go through the barrel. And if you use, if it's the same type of round of ammunition, if it's gone through a different gun, there's more likelihood that it's going to jam up or not work as effectively. So if you
avoid, you can't necessarily avoid using the manufactured stuff, but avoid using what has already been fired through another firearm.
Yeah. So if you're practicing with somebody, keep your shells separated, because your shells are going to be more suited for your gun, and your friends are going to be more suited for theirs.
Yeah, man. I'm thinking, just if there ever was a time to practice with 22 rounds, that's now. It's
I'm 44, and my chess buddy is 55, and we both just got our first guns. And instead of doing chess practice every week, every other week, and we go shooting practice now, just because of how crazy the world's gotten. Like, I never wanted a gun.
Yeah.
Never wanted a gun. Never wanted to get political. Just want to run my businesses and read comic books and be in blissful ignorance to what's going on.
May still be able to do that, huh?
I'd like to get back to that. I don't want to know who all these politicians are by first name. I want them to be behind the scenes working for us, and just stay the fuck out of our business and stay quiet, like directly out of our business, literally.
Yeah. Well, that really speaks to we're talking about ammunition hygiene in a way. That speaks to information hygiene, right? Like being intentional about how you are exposed to and interact with information. Like Facebook, these various platforms have a very toxic quality to them. My other niece, we went up to a cottage several months ago, and she was visiting with us. She says, "Oh, this place is great for the gram." She's talking about Instagram, how good it would look on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. And then, this has been on the periphery for me, but I think just recently, one of us was watching a documentary. Something like 70 to 80% of people on Instagram are total fakes, like they're bots.
Really?
That's a lot.
That seems like a lot.
Seems like a lot. And they were talking about how the incentives of the industries involved, there's no incentive for them to really remove them from the platform, right? So it seems like a snake pit. And man, even if you know what you're getting into with that, it seems like, what do they say? Don't wrestle with a pig, because you'll just get dirty and the pig will like it. Something to that effect.
I've never heard that. Sure. I got rid of my Facebook for a number of years, probably upwards of 15 years ago. I just got rid of it. Didn't have any social media. It was very nice. And then I'm like, I used to get memberships off of there, so I restarted one. And I probably get, just personally, not including my staff, I get 2 deals a week, specifically through Facebook. Somebody adding me or messaging me about memberships. 2 might even be low, and that justifies keeping it. I have an Instagram too. I don't know that I get memberships off of that. And I try not to mess with any of the forums that I don't see a direct benefit from a business perspective. Like, I don't have a TikTok. I had a Snapchat, but I didn't see how it was applicable, so I got rid of that. I keep Facebook. I still have some hope that the Instagram is helping, but I tell you what, if I didn't have a business, I'd shut them down in a second. It's just pure garbage.
Yeah,
and I get sucked into it.
Yeah, it's like you need a. Have you ever had one of those alarms on your phone where you have to solve a math problem before you turn it off and snooze it? So that was an option I used many years ago, just to prevent myself from continuing my bad habit of hitting snooze. Longer story is I needed to improve my upstream sleep habits before I ever went to bed. But anyways,
So you'd
it's
have to
like,
wake up enough and be cognitive enough to solve the math problem. And at that point, it's like, I'm up, right?
exactly,
That makes sense.
and add a bit of difficulty and friction to it. And I'm like, we should have a way to do that for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all of that, because like you were saying, you use it for business, but it's so easy to get sucked into it.
Yeah, I get sucked into
Outside
the
of,
garbage, and I'll have a few drinks and get on there and pipe off and piss people off. And it's like I never used to be like that. It's been more. This last year has been tumultuous. What am I trying to say? Tumultuous.
Tumultuous. Yeah.
Tumultuous for everybody, myself included. And I don't want to rant. I don't want to be political. I don't want to draw any unnecessary attention to myself, but I just can't help it.
Yeah.
One thing I do when I'm trying to be productive at work is you have the icons on your smartphone, and I will delete those. So if I do have to make a post, like a gym post, I have to load the app, load the picture, and then I'll delete it again, and it'll keep me from just messing around with it on my downtime.
Yeah.
And I'll still find, even though the apps aren't on there, I'll still find myself swiping, looking for them throughout the day, just out of habit.
Damn. Yeah.
So I wanted to, can you see this? Can you see the shirt?
You'll have to pop up for a sec. West Side. Oh, nice.
And what's really cool is this is a gift given to me directly by Louis Simmons.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He and Julius came to my Gull Road gym a week from yesterday, and Julius did some demonstration lifts, and then they did kind of like a loose Q&A thing with the audience, and it was pretty neat. It was pretty cool.
Right on.
They jived off each other well.
Had they met each other before?
I think briefly, yeah.
Yeah.
And man, I haven't seen Louis probably in 10, 12 years. I've talked to him on the phone, but I haven't seen him in person. I think he's 72 now.
Is he generally over in Eastern Ohio? Is that right?
Columbus. It's more central, I believe.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. And how was the audience?
They had a real good time. I think they had a lot of kids there from my gym, and they were kind of starstruck, and they didn't want to approach them. I'm like, yeah, just go talk to them. Nice. Once you get either of those guys started,
yeah,
that's what they love to talk about.
They're happy to talk. Uh-huh. Nice. And that was a few hours on Saturday afternoon, right?
Yes.
Nice. Wouldn't it be nice to fill up more and more of your time with in-person stuff like that, as opposed to Snapchat, what have you?
Yeah, absolutely. I plan on doing more events like that.
Right on. Oh, I wanted to ask you, speaking of events, did I see a while back you were hosting some kind of a chess learning or chess class? What?
Yeah, so there's a local chess club, and they keep having to either shut down or move venues because of the restrictions on restaurants and coffee houses. So finally, I said, why don't you guys just do it at the Gull Road Gym? So we have chess club every Sunday at our Gull Road Gym, hosted by Tim McGrew. I think Tim's last name is McGrew. I don't know that he's a grandmaster or a master, but he was an extremely high-ranked chess player. He's also, I believe he's a philosophy instructor at WMU.
Okay.
And he's been hosting it at the Gull Road Gym for, I think, about 5-6 weeks now, and the crowd keeps getting bigger and bigger because that's what was happening before. We were getting bigger and bigger groups, but then we'd have to stop for 3 weeks and find something else, and it took our momentum away. So I think it's going real well. Full disclosure, I don't go anymore just because I spend every day in the gym, and like going and trying to go into the gym on my day off and trying to learn something when I know customers are going to come ask me questions while I'm doing it, just not going to pan out. So I'm happy to provide, even though it got in the way of my learning experience. But I've been been playing online quite a bit.
It's tough to go in disguised.
Yeah, and I can't say, hey, screw off, I'm playing chess if somebody has a question.
Dude, this is your business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see how that'd be a bit of a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And chess isn't something that you can just like, okay, I'll be right back. It's like if you want to be efficient at it, like it can't be distracted. Like that's obviously taking 100% of your attention.
The cost of switching what you're paying attention to, like,
yes,
people I think have an intuition that it's much greater than when you have an interruption and the phone call only takes 2 minutes. I think people intuit that it's actually much more costly than 2 minutes, and
mm-hmm.
that's absolutely right. Because you have the cost of getting back into attention as well.
And just to complain further, if I'm there playing chess, I'm going to be distracted. It's like, how come nobody swept that corner? It's like, I got to fix that wall.
Right. Yeah. So, of course, someone in our listening audience is going to wonder, at least someone is going to wonder, okay, everyone's wearing masks, right? Well, the group's getting bigger and bigger. Oh no. So what does that look like? You've got
the
masks or guards or fans.
I think, as you can imagine, the chess people are like the creme de la creme as far as the most respectful people you want to find. So even though my gyms aren't requiring it, even though I'm supposed to, I think they walk in with their masks, and then when they sit down to play chess, just like if you were to sit down in a coffee shop or a diner, they take them off and play. And then if they get up to go to the bathroom, I think they put their masks on again. That's what they're doing. It's their protocol.
Sure.
They're very respectful folks. I'm not pushing on them. On the topic of masks, though, actually, if I could find this passage. So this is Camus' The Plague.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking me, can you see it?
Lift it up just a bit more. Just a bit more, like 2-3 inches. There we go.
And let me take this off. So what you see here is my binding effort, because that is the repercussion of reading a book in the sauna. It will melt your book. And this book has taken me forever because I can't get into it. Like I read, I think it's called A Beautiful Death right before this, and I like that one. This one, like usually I get halfway through a book and then I'm like invested and I finish it off. I'll finish off like the second half of the book in 2 days, even if like the first half took me a month to get into. But like I don't want to be critical of his writing. Obviously, he's a beautiful writer, but like there's just no for me. There's no character investment. However, through the page of it, I found this passage interesting. So this is about an outbreak in Algiers, French Algiers, like I believe North Africa. It's fictional.
And for a little context for the audience, Camus was a philosopher described as an existentialist, I believe, right?
Yes.
Guy from France, an existentialist, husband of Simone de Beauvoir, I believe, who was also a philosopher. Both of them quite famous in their time.
Let's see what page this is. 208.
And yeah, I think you're correct. Algiers is in northern Africa.
I think that's where Camus was from too. I think he was French, but I think he was from Algiers.
Yeah, they had some real imperial activity in the area.
Oh, I lost my passage. I thought it was right here.
I could maybe Google book it, search it up on the Google Books if you remember a snippet.
Let's talk about something else. I even wrote the page down. Oh, here it is. So this is on the topic of masks, and the main doctor's name is Riux, I believe it's like Rue. That's how I'm
Ryu.
pronouncing it. And one of the other characters is named Rambert, and I think Rambert is volunteering to help deal with the plague patients. They walked down a narrow passage. The walls were painted pale green, and the light was glaucous like that in an aquarium. Sorry if I'm not saying that correctly. Glaucous. Before they reached the glazed double door at the end of the passage, behind which shadowy forms could be seen moving, Tarot took Rambert into a small room, all the wall space of which was occupied by cupboards. Opening one of these, he took from a sterilizer 2 masks of cotton wool enclosed in muslin, handed one to Rambert, and told him to put it on. The journalist asked if it was really of any use, and Tarot said no, but it inspired confidence in others. I got a chuckle out of that. And that was
Well, there is something to be said for confidence.
50 years ago.
Yeah. So
this book is taking me forever.
Yeah, I found his stuff a little difficult to get into as well. If I wasn't on a real tear in the philosophy, when I was 17 or 18, I just devoured a lot of that. But it was a kind of a phase, you could say, like staying up wee hours of the night reading stuff like that. But now I got to push back on the masks. They work. They work, asterisk. They don't work so well if you use the same dirty mask all the time. You never clean it. That'll make you sick. They don't work so well if it's not covering up your nose. They don't work so well if it's this, that, and the other. We talked about, in my case, I was using the kind of mask that you would have dealing with someone with Ebola, whereas most people are using masks that you would use in a surgical room. And, the ones I'm using are very, very effective, very scientifically proven at filtering out these super tiny things in the air, which viruses are, of course. But, yeah. There's so much misuse of masks. There's so much misinformation about masks. There's so much, and official misinformation, I would say too. Like early on, we talked a little bit about how the CDC in the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control, was saying, you don't need to wear a mask. And that was in March. And then a few months later, they're saying you need to wear 3.
I believe the New England Journal of Medicine said that masks only help in a limited capacity in a medical setting, and even then, not for very long. And then all of a sudden, all this new information came out saying that masks help and you should wear 3 of them. And the Surgeon General said, well, we also used to think bloodletting was a good idea, so we're able to change our minds. But I think it's just all nonsense. And I still, if I had to bet the bank, I think they've caused way more trouble and they've hurt and killed more people than they've helped. And an unabashed anti-masker.
Yeah. Fair enough. What's wonderful about the United States is you can actually still do that. You ever hear the joke about free speech from Yakov Smirnoff?
I remember him.
In America, you have free speech, and he was a Russian speaking, I think at the time, maybe from the USSR before the fall of the USSR.
Wasn't he a defector?
I believe so. I wish I knew more about him.
I know he played a defector like in a movie, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Basically, the joke goes, in Russia, we have free speech. In America, you have freedom after speech too, though. So thankfully, that's still the case generally here.
I think so. I think we're going to be all right. I'm optimistic by nature, but I do think that things are getting better and more people are coming online and getting more reasonable about all this.
I would ask, I want to share just a little tidbit of perhaps one of the most rationally optimistic books I've encountered recently, and maybe you could think of something similar, something that inspires optimism in you. I've been reading David Deutsch's The Beginning of Infinity lately, and essentially he's making an argument. I mean, there are many pretty fundamental arguments, but he's making an argument that if there's anything in the universe not prohibited by the laws of nature, it can be accomplished through the generation of the requisite knowledge, right? So I don't think it's written into the laws of nature that humanity that thrives is impossible, right? Writ large, I think many of our challenges are soluble, and the idea that, on the other hand, this book Abundance makes a lot of statistical and evidence-based claims about reason for optimism. I've been reading that lately too. Your poorest people in the United States have it so much better than the richest people from 150, 100 years ago.
I heard
Generally, they have a TV, a
recently.
flush toilet, plumbing.
You're better off today in Western civilization being legitimately in poverty than you would be being a billionaire in the 1800s.
Access to medicine, all this stuff, societal benefits. To be fair, there are new risks as well, but there's so much cause for big scale optimism, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I would like to see us as a species get more involved and more enthusiastic about space travel and Mars and colonizing, other planets. It seems like even before 2020, I was always a bit dismayed just how much attention there were on sports and all of these trivial activities. It's like, man, let's pay attention to, they just for sure discovered two black holes colliding. It's like, let's talk about that. And that stuff's just so fascinating. And it takes a sideline to, I think I even wrote like a little piece on it, like Tiger Woods winning whatever Grandmasters he won back in 2018, 2019. It was like at the same time that scientists confirmed that they had recorded two black holes colliding. And again, that took the back burner to somebody that's really good at golf.
Right. To relay a little passage from David Deutsch's book, you and I talked about the big scale cosmos a little bit a while back, and you made the point that our best ability to sample, like to observe the cosmos around us, is still kind of like, in many ways, just taking a teaspoon out of the ocean, right?
That's not mine. It's an analogy scientists use quite a bit to explain the Fermi paradox. Or like why don't we see any life? It's like getting a teaspoon in the ocean saying there's no whales. Where are they at?
That's right.
Yeah. There's no dolphins. There's no whales.
Where's the whale?
Yeah, because there's nothing out there.
Exactly. Well, so he's talking about this thing Stephen Hawking was talking about years ago, describing humanity as a scum, a scum on a typical planet.
Sounds optimistic.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Around a typical planet near a typical star, and he's trying to say, and many others have glommed on this as a truism. He describes it as the principle of mediocrity, and David Deutsch is like, no. So You can say we're typical or whatever.
That's Stephen Hawking, because that sounds a lot like Carl Sagan.
Hawking, yeah. So he's saying, Deutsch is saying, I should clarify, the author of this Beginning of Infinity book. Okay, you can really only say we're typical in a really contrived sense because, okay, imagine that you go out 100 kilometers right up. Now you're in space, right? You look around, you see the sun, you see the planets, you see Earth still taking up most of your view. You're in space. That's a little bit more typical in terms of the universe, the cosmos, but you're still in a very, very untypical place. And you'll see why in a moment. Okay, so go out another trillion kilometers, right? You're so far out that looking at our sun, it looks like any other star to us. That's your perspective at that point. But you're still in the Milky Way.
All I
And
keep thinking is you Canadians and your kilometers. Because I'm trying to figure out how many miles that is, but go ahead.
I think Canadians and the rest of the world, I know.
Sorry to interrupt.
And okay, so let's switch up units. He says, all right, you're still in the Milky Way. Now let's go out even further, because the Milky Way is still going to take up your whole sky, and you're still in a pretty untypical place because most places in the cosmos are not in any galaxy at all. Okay, go out 1,000 light years, right?
Okay.
Then you might be able to find yourself in what they call something like deep intergalactic space, where there's only one atom in every cubic meter, and it's all just hydrogen or helium, and there's no chemistry at all. And if you were to look at a supernova and you were looking right at a star that blew up in that same direction, you wouldn't even be able to perceive it because not enough light would ever reach you. It's just pitch black. That is the typical universe. If you went a million, okay, so if you divide up that area into the space of our solar system and you just map it out as like a cube the size of our solar system, you could go a million cubes the size of our solar system in any direction, and it would be the exact same thing. It's like unimaginably desolate, right?
So what you're saying, if you go anywhere in the universe, odds are is you're going to be pretty much nowhere with nothing to see statistically.
Exactly.
Now there are.
That's not to say there's not a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff, and I actually want to talk about that when your point is finished.
Well, that's essentially it. The typical place in the universe is something unimaginably different from
desolate. Yeah, it's nothing
here. So the principle of mediocrity that people use almost like a put down on humanity just it doesn't track with physical reality. Put it that way. I think that's roughly the point there.
It sounds like something most of us will never be able to wrap our minds around. On the topic of that, the in between, the space in between the galaxies, is in that in between space, there is stuff, and we talked about this on one of our previous discussions about ʻOumuamua that came through. I think do they call it is it an interstellar, outer stellar? It's not part of our system. It came from another system, so it came from that in between. Could have been coasting for billions and billions of years, but in that space in between galaxies, there's planets, there's stars, there's whole solar systems, which is kind of interesting. So somewhere there might be a solar system, maybe something like ours, completely separated from the rest of the galaxy, and maybe to your point, with some kind of a species with life on it, but they can't see anything. Like their skies are black, and that's where we're going to be because space is expanding, and at some point it'll expand to the point where sky shut off, there'll be no starry nights anymore. It'll just be black, and we won't know what's out there because it'll be further than it takes for the light to reach us, which is pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Which makes
And
me wonder, what can't we see? Like what was the sky like 5 billion years ago? Like what's outside of our perception? Or even going further, I saw a map and it looked like a starry night, and it said these aren't stars, these are black holes. But we didn't evolve to be able to see black holes. We evolved to be able to see light. But like what's going on up there that our senses and our technology isn't aware of?
yeah, there's another very interesting topic he addresses is how so many things physically occurring around us today, even our Wi-Fi or what have you, but also the discovery of pulsars. Those I think they're black holes that emit.
I
Are
believe
they black holes?
they're neutron stars, I think.
They're a particular kind of star, right?
And they're neutron stars, and they're spinning with more precision than an atomic clock. So some people theorize that they might even be alien beacons, so you can figure out where you are in the universe, like use them to orient yourself, just because they're so precise.
Interesting. So the discovery of those, right? That didn't take place. Someone looking up through optics. It took place through a radio telescope, where the woman who noticed the first pulsar was looking at a line on a piece of graph paper, right? And there are all these layers of science and technology between her and that, but she was only ever able to perceive it because of those layers.
That's cool.
That they kind of put more distance between her and reality in a way, but they embodied theory or knowledge in such a way that it was almost like she had access to a new ear or a new kind of eye, right?
A new sense that we hadn't evolved.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
And what do they say? 80% of the universe's matter is dark matter, right? Which still is scarcely understood.
Yeah, I've seen those figures. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I like when scientists just come out and say, "Yeah, we don't know."
Yeah.
I don't know what that
Yeah.
is. Evan, we're getting close to an hour, and I don't know if we're that interested. You want to shut her down?
Sure. Let's shut her
Do,
down. Let's get.
I kind of like the idea of like briefly talking about like our workouts and exercise on the way out. Have you done anything interesting? Or?
I have been doing kind of the same thing very regularly lately. I have maybe 3 workouts I cycle through. And today, for example, I'll start with the benefits because I have managed to gain about 20 pounds over the past couple of months. And
Your
all I'm
face looked
using is a
little fuller.
kettlebell and some dumbbells and body weight. So today I just alternated between sit-ups and or butterfly sit-ups, more specifically, kettlebell swings and squats, air squats. And that's it. I would do a set of 21, 15, and 9, and then rinse and repeat.
For like the duration of the day, would you do it periodically, or was that just like a workout?
Just a workout. Yeah, I do some loosening up stuff like some super basic yoga. Some working out the kinks, as they say. But
Yeah, you're
that's about
probably at
it.
the age now where you feel better later in the day as you get moving around than you do in the morning
Yeah,
physically. I
yeah.
know
I
you
think
probably were a
that's
little bit
probably
better.
more caffeine dependence than anything in my
Yeah,
case.
I get that too. Yeah, because I've incurred so much abuse. Like I wake up feeling 80 years old, but if I move around, walk, stretch, work out, by the end of the night, even with like a hip that needs replacement, I feel like I can jog. I feel great. But then the more sedentary I am, just the worse I feel.
Yeah.
And I've been playing around with a lot of different shrugging motions. I might do like a muscle in a minute about some of these different kind of shrugs that I'm doing, and you can do real high frequency, high volume, and essentially what I'm talking about, just for clarification, is so you're in a position where you're going to do a pull up, but instead of doing a pull up, you just shrug yourself up with your lats. And I
Okay.
do bunches of stuff like that. I have a band exercise where I do bunches of stuff like that. And then I recently started experimenting with another shrugging kind of exercise where you have your elbows on the pad where you're going to do leg lifts to work your abs. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So you have your elbows on the pad, and then from there, just shrugging up with your upper body. And I think that works. It makes my bad rotator cuff feel a lot better, which is slowly improving. And the first exercise that I talked about has blown up my lats. Like I have like so much more lat development, and I do those things all the time. And you seem to be able to recover quickly from them. There's something natural about moving your body through space. I think you can recover quickly from that, and I think it hits a lot of like the little muscles. And you're not limited to just one plane. Like you can kind of shift your body around and hit different areas and focus on different parts of your back. I'll do a
Nice.
quick video. So I do like a muscle in a minute thing. Do you think it would be a good idea to post those to this YouTube channel?
Yeah. Consolidate.
Yeah, cool.
We could do a separate one if you like to, but
I think just all. I like the whole idea of like just the whole Renaissance thing where we can talk about science and space travel and Stephen Hawking's, and then go into like some bro science about pull ups in the same
absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah, you can easily have separate playlists on your on the same account and everything. So now people know what to look for in the coming future.
Anything before we sign off here?
Yeah, happy to be back at it. Let's
Yeah, happy to talk
talk
to you. I've
again more
missed you.
soon.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's troublingly long time.
Well, we'll close it down and we can chat a little bit afterwards. I'll shut it down.
All right. Adios.
Goodbye, everybody.